Unbeaten tracks in Japan. The sky was murky and threatening. A drift of brown cloud lay across Hieizan. Occasional gusts of wind lifted the sand in the temple courts, and the gloom seemed to suit this grand structure of an ancient faith. The stately courts, there were neither priests nor worshippers, and I shivered as I crossed them, guided by my kuruma runner, to whom the utterance of the simple word Akamatsu conveyed my wishes. He deposited me at the side of the great temple, where a flight of steps led up to a small room, where 2 priests were writing, and there, taking off my boots, I waited for the English-speaking priest. I was disappointed with his appearance. He is barely 5 feet high, and decidedly ill-favored, with hair about an inch long, very bristly, a bristly black mustache, and bristly scanty beard. His brow, however, is fine, and his eyes are bright and keen. He wore a cassock of figured blue brocade, a deep chasuble of figured brown silk gerardine, and a stole of crimson cloth of gold, and carried a brown rosary in his left hand. In describing Buddhist vestments, it is impossible to avoid drifting into the use of terms by which the vestments in the Roman Church are known. Akamatsu is very gentlemanly and courteous, speaks English remarkably well, with great vigor of expression, and talked, as it seemed to me, with surprising frankness. He took me over the temples and showed me all that was to be seen. My visit lasted for 3 hours, and I would gladly have made it longer. I was so deeply interested with his mind and conversation. This great temple of Nishihon Ganji may be regarded as the cathedral of the Monto sect, and the abbot or high priest and its other dignitaries represent bishop, dean, and chapter. They are at the head of 10,000 Monto temples whose financial and ecclesiastical concerns they manage, and whose patronage they dispense. There are 100 priests here, besides acolytes, but much of the business is secular. They look very much unlike ordinary bonzu because of their hair and beards, and there is little of the stupid or sanctimonious expression which is usual on the faces of the Buddhist priests. Their creed doesn't require anything like asceticism or separation from the duties and the lives of other men, and in so much is healthier and more human. I asked the meaning of the universal recurrence of the lotus. The lotus, he said, is purity with its fair blossom. It grows out of slime and mud, so righteousness grows out of the filth of the human heart. As to the differences among the Buddhist sects, he said, their doctrines differ as widely from each other as do those of Christians. But as you all believe in one God and Christ, so all Buddhists agree in reverence for Amida, and in belief in immortality, and in the transmigration of souls. He said, you are limited by your Creator. We do not believe in any Creator, but that Spirit, eternal produced atoms, which by what you English you would call fortuitous combination, produce all we see. Buddha is not as your God, supreme, but above all. When you die, you do not become gods, but we become Buddhas. I said that I saw bronze and stone Buddhas everywhere, with faces on which stagnation is depicted, and from which all human emotion is banished. Buddha is not sleeping or waking or thinking. He exists only. Even so, he answered, the end of righteousness is rest. Nirvana cannot be easily explained. I asked him his opinion on the present religious state of Japan, and after a very much interesting conversation, he summed up thus: Shintoism is truly the rudest form of nature worship, slightly embellished by Confucians and Buddhist contact. As a religion, it is dead. As a political engine, it is failing. It never had life. Buddhism was once strong. It is now weak. It may or may not revive. Its virtues, purity, metempsychosis, and immorality cannot die. I told him that, in spite of certain superstitious observances, I could not but regard the Japanese as the most irreligious people. It is so now, he said. The Confucian philosophy spread rapidly long ago among the high classes, and educated and thinking men denied immorality and became what you would call materialist. Gradually, their unbelief sank downwards to the heimin, and that little real belief in Japan, though much superstition still exists. I asked him if his sect addressed itself especially to the upper classes. Pure Buddhism knows no classes, he said. Buddha was what you call a democrat. All souls are equal. All men by righteousness can become Buddhas. Your Christ was a democrat and desired to make of men a brotherhood, but you have one doctrine for rich and one for poor, and one church for rich into which poor cannot enter, and one for poor where you teach men to obey the rich. This is not a way. I asked him what he thought of the prospects of Christianity in Japan, and among much else he said, there have been missionaries called Protestants in Japan for 15 years. There are now over 100, and they count 1,600 baptized persons. The colleague here is sending out young samurai to preach, very ardent and well equipped for teaching. Christianity may make great progress in some of the country parts of Japan, for many are weary, and it is easy, and they will be disposed to receive it, but not in the large towns. This corresponds closely with Mr. Nishijima's opinion on the same subject. I asked him what he considered the most prevalent unrighteousness among his countrymen, and he gave the reply, which I have mentioned as having been given me 3 times before: truthlessness and licentiousness.